A very
Hi.
good evening, ma'am.
Hi. Good evening, Victor. How are you doing? All
I'm
good.
fine, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you. I hope all good and well.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Everything is fine.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Hassan. Hi, Shruti. Shruti, were you trying to reach me today in the morning? I missed your call.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi. Hi, Shruti. Were you trying to reach me in the morning? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, I wanted to ask you, should I mail you the assignments or because the portal is not taking them?
Okay. So, no, you have to submit it on your own. So, what I'll do is maybe I'll just, in like few minutes, I'll do the extension for you and you can submit it right away. Or maybe after the class is also fine. So after the
Yeah,
class,
ma'am. I want the 2 day extension because I just came from court and like I 5 I leave from court and I just don't get time. And yesterday I checked again. I talked to Varun as well, and he said that the post came live on his portal on 15th.
no, it was on 10th. It came live on his
He
10th.
said that he said that he called you and then
He
it
called me in the
wasn't live
first,
till
yeah, he
okay.
called me in the first
Yeah.
week. So the course, you had the class on 6th. So he actually, raised the issue on 9th. And by 10th,
Yeah.
everything was sorted for him.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't worry. I think you checked the portal quite late, Shruti, and you came to know it's not working for you, is
I
it?
checked it on 15th, ma'am.
Yeah, you should have checked it before because few of the students had the issue, but we resolved it immediately once we got to know there is an issue of, students are not able to access. So firstly, Varun, raised it. So we sorted out for him. And
Yeah.
then Ibad actually called me. And then Sheila Ditya, you haven't spoken to me, but I knew that you were not able to access it. So we we made it sure that it's sorted for everyone. Okay, good then. And how are you all doing? All good? Shiladitya, then you can switch on your cameras if it is okay.
Good evening, ma'am. So
Hi.
I'm here today to talk about the assignment 7. I mean, like the class 7, ma'am. So
Yes. And we have with us.
resolved yet, ma'am. The thing is resolved or yet to resolve?
Oh, it's already been resolved. It didn't check the portal. It's been resolved almost like 3-4 days back.
Okay.
So yeah, so we didn't know that there was an issue. And once it was raised by Ibad, and he told me that you are also not able to access. So we sorted it out for everyone. Hasnan, all good for you? You're able to access the course and everything, materials, content, assignments, all going good?
Yes.
Okay.
Assignments I was unable to do for this particular module.
You're not able to do. Okay.
I didn't get much time,
Okay. So let's.
and I got recently only the courts got closed, so I went for vacation.
Okay.
I returned 2 days back only.
Okay. Hope you had a good vacation.
Yes.
Okay, great. So maybe we can start the session. Victor, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just have a little conversation and then I'll just hand it over to you. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Professor Victor, and thank you for joining us today. We are so looking forward for your session. And how are you all doing? Got to know few of you are busy with exams and internships and are not getting enough time for completing the course, is it? And submitting the assignments, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if you ask me, this actually should not be an excuse for not submitting the assignments. Now, you know why I'm saying this, for the very simple reason. We just need to manage the time, prioritize our work. Time management is the key. Time management is something that most of us want to improve on. These days, it's a bit harder. We have smartphones, social media, and the other frequent emails distracting us all the time. But we can still work on it. How? Let me just share 5 tips with you today and listen to me carefully. Now, number 1 is set your reminders for all your tasks. Know your deadlines and set reminders. It will always help you to prepare and gather things better. Number 2, you need to create a daily planner that I also do. Make a list of the tasks that you need to do on that day and the following day. As you complete all your list, make sure that you tick off your task you have completed. It's okay if you have not completed. You can always, do a task for the next day. Give each task a time limit. So on your daily list of things to do, when and how much time you think each task will take you. For example, you can allot maybe a time for this course, maybe an hour every day. Don't miss out. Stick to it. Now you can plan your days for watching the videos, the self-paced videos, reading the materials, and do your own self-study and research. Number 4, which is very important, block out all your distractions. Now, once you have set up a routine and said, okay, this is the first 1 hour which I'm going to devote. First and foremost, turn off all your notifications. And if possible, I would suggest keep your mobile phones away whenever you're doing an allotted task. Establish a routine is number 5. Very, very important that you need to create a routine. Prioritize your work and just stick to it. Even if it is a chaotic day, I do understand, even we do have those kinds of days, still you have to make it through. Now try these management tips, and do let me know if it worked for you all. Personally, I do make a checklist of my work a day before, and it does make a lot of difference in my day schedule. So we are in course 7, which is on incorporation and registration and conversion. There are 2 major assignments which are coming up for the next week, and the last date of submission is 28th of May. So I would suggest that whatever assignments you have not completed due to various reasons, I would suggest, it's important that you complete it on 26th. Sorry, the date is 26th of May, and maybe you can check the portal for the exact submission of the date. So make sure that you submit all your assignments before time, and the last date is 26th. And at the end of the session, Mr. Pradyum Purohit will be there, and he'll explain you what's coming up next for our course on accounts, which is course number 8. So that's all from my side. I hope you enjoy this session, and we have Professor Victor with us. Over to you, Professor Victor. All yours. Thank you. To begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So a very, should I say warm good evening to everybody, because you are coming from various parts of India, I believe. Somewhere it's very hot, somewhere it might not be so. But at least in my place where I'm coming from, that's Bengal, it's quite hot. And even at this time of the hour, it's quite humid, even though. But anyways, you have come across a very long time. I think you have been studying about various facets of business, various types of businesses you have been studying. So let us first start to understand how many types of business are you aware of? Like, what are the various modes in which you can carry out a business? Let's start with that first. Then we can come to incorporation. How many types of business entities are you aware of? What are the various modes in which you can do a business? Anybody?
Yeah, so like the past courses we have done, we read about sole proprietorship, we
Great,
read about LLP, we read about partnership,
great.
and the various advantages and disadvantages of them, and when to approach what.
Great. So you have, if I'm not wrong, you are Shruti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shruti, you have rightly mentioned we have some very predominant forms that we find in our day-to-day lives. One is sole proprietorship, always the go-to form that in which we start a business. Then comes the friends and the family members. When they join in, then we have partnerships. We have LLPs, which is a new form that has come up of late. And we also have somebody whom you did not mention, though, but it's also that's called as a company. We have these 3 broad forms. Now, all of these have their various categorizations. Sole proprietorship, though, is not categorized. It's sole proprietorship itself. But in partnership firm, we have partnership firm and LLPs. And in companies, we have a lot of varieties under the Companies Act 2013, a lot of options that have been given to us to choose. Now, I think you have also dealt with as to when to choose which entity. You have been
Yes, sir.
you have been through that. Like, when will you choose a company? When will you choose a LLP? And more importantly, you already are aware of, like, what are the ticks that you have to put, or what are the check boxes that needs to be ticked before you decide to choose a particular entity. You already are aware about that. Fine. So I'm not going to go into that. Rather, let me start with one of the most popular entities that we know of, that is called as a partnership firm. Partnership firm, we all are aware of how to incorporate. How do you incorporate a partnership firm? Anybody? Can you incorporate, the first question is, can you incorporate a partnership form?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
There's no mention of incorporation for partnerships, but registration, that is also not mandatory. It's upon the partners whether they want to register or not.
Great. Your good name, please?
Varun Pathania, sir.
Acha, Varun. So, Mr. Varun, as you have rightly pointed out, yes, you are correct. It's not compulsory to register a partnership firm. So you can register, you may not register. So that means you start a partnership. That is exactly how we use the word. So when I use the word incorporation, that means we are bringing some amount of registration mandate. So we don't talk about partnerships, we talk about LLPs. Or rather, we are much more focusing on what are the things to do. Like, how would you incorporate a LLP? What are the things you need to take into account before you incorporate LLP? So basically, how and what is the difference between LLP and a firm? We know LLP is basically a partnership firm which has the elements of corporate liabilities. Or rather, to put it in a better way, I can say that when we talk about limited liability concept, then that has been introduced in the concept of partnership. So that is how we get LLPs. So basically, when we look at the stages of incorporation of LLP, this process of LLP is guided by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So I don't think you have done the process of incorporation of LLPs. Have you done it already? If I may just ask again.
We are just studying that.
You are just starting with the process of incorporation of LLPs, I guess. You have not yet done it completely, right?
Yes, sir. We are in the process. We are studying the course right now on incorporation.
So I'll just give you the brief kind of a nutshell view about what are this, and then I can take some questions from you, like whatever doubts you might be having. Like Mr. Varun, I think already you had one query that was raised before me by one of the instructors who followed me. You had a query, so I'll respond to that also. But let me just quickly narrate before you what are the various do's and don'ts. What are the important do's and don'ts? Now, when you incorporate a LLP, what is important to identify is you have to identify a name, a kind of unique name. Now, this unique name has to be identified and has to be registered beforehand. So for that, we have a respective form, and that particular form is designed so that you can reserve your name. And this form is available on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. Now, in 2023, the version of the forms have been updated. So already the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have released an update. It's also available on the MCA website. If I may just show you, let me just share my screen so you can just have a look at the revised forms, what it looks like. Any of you have visited the MCA website by any chance to look at what
Yes,
the
sir.
MCA forms?
Yes.
Yeah. So have you downloaded the forms anytime to see what it looks like?
No.
No. Anybody? None? Okay, let me just Shruti,
I
please go ahead.
refer to the MCA website for looking for an NGO.
For an NGO.
For an NGO, yeah.
Okay, NGO on MCA website. Why? And for what?
Because it was registered as a business, and I wanted to look at the details of it.
Okay, so is this
Section 8 company. It was registered as a Section 8 company.
It is registered as Section 8 company. So that is what is the important catch, that this entity is registered as a Section 8 company. If it is not so, then obviously you cannot look on the company's website, because if it's a society, it's not there. So obviously you cannot. So let me share the screen to so that I can just show you what this form looks like. Let me just see. Can you see this FAQ?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, when you see this FAQ, you'll find that this FAQ has been designed keeping in mind certain parameters. What is it? That this FAQ is, firstly, it is official. So whatever the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have stated regarding the companies, they are already there. And as you can see over here, it has been very clearly mentioned that there are certain forms which have been migrated from the version 2 to version 3. Both are there effectively on the MCA portal. But there are certain forms which are covered under version 3 now from 23rd January 2023. And if you see, these are the various forms that are there. Now, why I have brought you over here? Because if you see that there is an option where we talk about LLPs, and LLPs are no longer there covered under the version 2. So they have also been migrated under version 3. So in version 3, all these company related forms are there. And they also include certain forms which are regarding the process of LLP. Like when we talk about LLPs, when we talk about limited liability partnership registration, so some other forms have also been migrated to version 3. So that is how this has been done, particularly so that to bring about simplicity and to make it much more clarity as to how the forms need to be registered. Now, over here, if I show you V3 FAQs, like what is this and where should I file the LLP forms and company forms? So let me take you to the answer to this particular question. LLP forms have been migrated to version 3, while company forms are still in version 2. This phase migration is done to enable the smooth transition of the portal. So the point is, the MCA portal is still having both the versions, version 2 and 3. But if you're wanting to incorporate LLP, you cannot go through the version 2 format. You have to move to the version 3 format. Am I clear? So this is the first do's and don'ts that you have to keep in mind. You cannot stick to the old formats. You cannot stick to the old forms. The forms have been updated. And because the forms have been updated, so you have to visit the MCA portal to check whether you are updating or whether you are fulfilling the latest forms or are they the old ones. Because if they're the old ones, then obviously the registration will get stuck and your incorporation will not take place. Am I clear? Any questions? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, once you have got the
Sir,
yeah,
one question I have, sir. Where do we have to have an account in the MCA?
MCA portal? Yeah, of course. You need to have an account. You cannot do a kind of like whenever you are doing an MCA portal. So I guess any of you have an account in MCA portal?
No, sir.
I don't have, sir.
Anybody who is an advocate who is there?
I'm an advocate, but
Yeah. Achha, you are an advocate.
I don't have any.
I'm sorry for that. But ideally, if you're dealing with company matters, generally companies have an account with the MCA portal, and you can even register yourself over there. So if you go to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and if you visit their services, then you will find that
Sir, for downloading these forms, we require payment of fees.
Yeah, for that you need to make some payments. You need to make a payment on the like for you're talking about downloading the forms or you're talking about uploading the forms?
Uploading the forms.
For uploading e-forms, there are associated fees wherever required. They have been mentioned on the portal itself, and you need to make those payments.
And for accessing certain these services, also for incorporation
there are fees. Not for all, but yeah, there are some nominal charges that you need to pay because you're accessing some data. So obviously you have to make some payments.
I require first to create an account, and I think I should have a DSC also.
DSC is required but DSC is not required for everybody. Like if you're an individual, I don't think you'll be requiring a DSC, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah. DSC, one thing you have to keep in mind when we talk about DSC or when we talk about DIL, these two things are particularly required for entities who are engaging in business or engaging in accessing the portal for uploading documents. If you're just accessing the portal for checking some details, then you might not be required. DSC is particularly required for those involved.
My question was regarding that only, sir.
Yeah,
for just checking, do I require DSC?
I don't think so. You would require a DSC for that.
But the payment and the account creation is required, right?
Yeah, account creation is required and payments are also required. But like if there are individuals or like if there's a company who is involved, if there's a corporate involved, they can create their own account and that account can be accessed by anybody.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I think somebody was having some question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So if suppose we are 3-4 partners and we want to incorporate an entity, so do we have to register then as a business user, and any one of us can then go forward by fulfilling all the formalities or which we have to upload on Spicky plus that part A and part B?
Okay. Now, I think I was not able to trace who was speaking. So, but anyways, was it Varun who was speaking?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Varun. So, Varun, going by your question, what I can suggest is if you are talking about the entity, which is nothing but a kind of a LLP. LLP has its designated partners. LLP has its persons who will be authorized to carry out the whole process. So your question is regarding who will be authorized to carry out the uploadings, right?
No, sir. My question is that at the very first stage, like when I want to incorporate an entity. So first,
Mhm.
I'll suppose I today I want to incorporate an entity. So I first have to create an account under the name of business
Yeah.
user, and
Yes.
then I can carry forward. I can fulfill the speaky form myself on
Yeah, you
behalf
can
of
do that
all.
on behalf of the other partners.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. But one thing is important is you need to get the designated partners identification number. That is called the DPIN. And all
Yes.
the
Yes, sir.
designated partners in the proposed LLP need to have it. So that again, you have to do through the MCA portal itself. And once that partner has got that, then the signatures have to be attached. So DSC is a prior requirement. So
Yes, sir.
first thing is you need to get a DSC, get the
Okay.
DPIN, and then either you can do it on the behalf of all the partners, or the others can also do it. So generally, one person only do it, but you need at least two people, I guess,
Okay,
regarding
sir.
this. Yeah. Now, once you have now, any other questions? Any other queries? Okay. So stage one clear regarding incorporation of LLP. You have to you visit the website, you check the version, ensure you are on the right form or on the right version so that your registration does not get cancelled. And after you have got these two important things, a digital signature certificate and a designated partners identification number, DPIN or DIN, whatever you call them. Once you have got this, then you log in to the LLP portal, and there you'll find that there is an e-forms link where you have to reserve the name. So for that, there is form one which you can fill up for reservation of the name, and you can choose the name of the LLP. Now, generally, you can choose up to 6 choices, and any of the partners, as I think already I answered with on Varun's response, that any of the partners or the designated partners may submit the form. The digital signatures have to be submitted. Again, the necessary fees have to be paid along with this. That goes without saying. And regarding this, we have the company fees rules that are there of 2014, which are there. You can check that to check the capital worth, the valuation, everything to decide how much amount of fees you need to pay. Excuse me. Once you have fulfilled all these things, then there is also an option for free name search facility of the existing companies. The system will provide similarly listed or closely, which are very deceptively similar to your names, and they might not allow you to register with that name also. So you can cross check that. But this choosing of 6 names are for reserving them so that they don't get taken by somebody else. So that you are doing, and for that you are required to pay the fees. For just checking whether your name is free or not, you don't need to pay the fees. This is a basic difference you need to keep in mind. Now you can keep, obviously, once you have filled up the details and you have reserved your name, you can log into the portal to check the status as to whether it has been accepted or not, whether it has been cancelled or not, whatever. And based upon the LLP rules of 2009, what we find is there are some prescribed registration fees that you need to pay with reference to this. Once the portal, this thing has been done, this form has been submitted, what you have to do after this is basically you need to fill in certain more details. For that, we have Form 3 and Form 4. Form 3 and Form 4 talks about the information regarding the LLP agreement, the partners, and the details. So these are some of the steps that you need to carry out for incorporating a LLP with reference to MCA portal that is there, if you want to do it on the MCA portal. Okay. One more thing I would like to show you in this particular FAQ, just a moment. This will also okay, this is not that. This is not that FAQ that I'm looking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is one. Regarding regarding the registration of digital signature certificate, have this been done with you all? Like, are you aware about how to register a DSC? Has this been done with you all in your classes earlier?
No, sir.
We have just studied that we have to register for DSC through a certifying agency, and
Yes.
there are 5-6 listed certified agencies from
Correct.
which we have to get.
Correct. So regarding this, the registration process for the digital signature certificate is also given on the MCA portal. And if you go to the MCA portal, you'll find that there is a step-by-step process. Like for various categories of person, there are various stages or various guidelines that have been provided. So whenever you are dealing with registration process of a DSC, you can visit this particular portal and see what the steps given for each and every category of individuals. So the steps might vary a bit. So whenever you are registering the DSC, depending upon the person who will be using it, please check the steps. That is why what I needed you all to see, that there is a difference in procedure for various categories of persons. For directors, there are some different steps. For practicing professionals, the steps are a bit varied or a bit different. So please make this, keep this difference in mind. Okay. Any questions till now? Any doubts? As you can see, this is given on the MCA portal itself. This is not something that is not accessible to you. And based upon the various individuals who are there, you'll find
This
yeah, please tell me.
this step is after deciding the name, right?
No, this is for registering the DSC, the digital signature certificate. If you don't have a DSC, then how will you fill up the form and affix the signatures to the particular form? So you have
This
to
is the
apply.
first.
Yeah, this is a very fundamental step. Like you have to acquire the DSC, decide who are the directors, if they have, decide who are the designated partners, and do they have a DIN or DPIN or not? If they don't have it, then you have to get that also. But for that, you have to have the DSC first. If you don't have a DSC, you cannot proceed to the next step. So DSC is the very first step that you're required to do in case if you have to proceed to the next step.
Sir, can I raise a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Who is a subscriber, sir? Can we use the word subscriber in LLP?
Subscribers, as in like you want to say a subscriber to the memorandum in that in that sense.
Yes, sir. For
I would
obtain the DSC, sir, the first subscriber need to sign as a signatory. Can we say that in case of LLP? Like, is it a right thing? Not, I'm just.
I won't rather see as a terminology. You can use the term, but I would rather stick to the word partners because we don't have the concept of capital in the way in which we have for companies. So
Exactly.
that is why I prefer not to use the word subscribers. And even in the forms, I don't think they have used the word subscribers. They have used the word partners. So rather, I would stick to the official terminology that is there. That is partners.
Ah,
Is it answered?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other queries anybody has? Otherwise, we can move to the next point. That is, please. Yes, Varun.
So I have one query regarding the designated partner.
Yeah.
So from what I have studied, that it is, I think, optional that whether you can make a person designated partner at the very stage of incorporation, or you may make a designated partner in the LLP agreement. So at the incorporation stage, I think that it is not mandatory to make a person a designated partner. So my question is that the Philip form has to be signed by the designated partner. So I was just studying in the, I think, LLP Act that if there is no designated partner, then all the partners will be deemed to be considered as designated partner. So that means that
is a deeming provision.
Okay, sir. So that means that at the time of incorporation, if I haven't particularly mentioned that this guy is going to be a designated partner, then any one of the partner can sign the Philip form. That is a requirement that for incorporation, the DP has to sign that Philip form. So this is my query.
Okay. Now, a very pertinent and nice question, because when we talk about a normal partner is just a member of a partnership firm, but a designated partner means who has been given the primary responsibility to run and to take care of the day-to-day business. So it is, in one way, we can say that designated partner is a person who is a responsible one. But we know in partnership, there is no concept of responsibility being thrust upon one individual. We cannot do that. Everybody is equally responsible, or they are responsible in the proportion in which they have agreed to. So designated partners, as per the mandate, and if you see the MCA website, again, I'm referring to this, the requirement is very simple. The requirement is, it is mandatory that every LLP will have to have 2 designated partners. Now, in case if you say that a person is not appointed, then what? So obviously there is a concept that when you are not appointing one single person, then everybody is equally responsible, and then that responsibility will fall upon everybody. But the question will again come back to this, that who will sign the document then?
Yes.
Correct. And there again, the problem will come that for how many people would you acquire or require the DSC then? Because DSC also carries charges, right? And you
Right,
have to
sir.
affix all the signatures. Getting the signatures of so many persons at every point of time is difficult. And LLPs don't have any upper limit. So we are not talking about 2 persons or 3 persons. Suppose there are 500 people. And if you don't have a DP, or if you don't have at least 2 DPs, getting signatures of 500 odd people is really difficult. So generally, people always are there because they are the people who are heading things. So designated partners are taken to be as such that they are a mandate which everybody follows. And if they don't, or if they are not present, the deeming concept is there as a kind of a fallback option. But that is not something that I would advise anybody to go back to just because the law has allowed one kind of a backdoor entry. That is not advisable. That is what I can say.
Okay, sir. So there can there be like a stopgap arrangement, like at the time of incorporation, the partners are incapable of deciding who will be the designated partners. But then, after incorporation, there is liability upon the partners to mandatorily have at least two. Then, I mean, after incorporation, within 1 month or 2 months, they can, when they'll submit the LLP agreement, then after incorporation, in the agreement, they can mention that now so and so are our designated partners. Just that they want to incorporate the company as soon as possible, but in the agreement they'll mention that okay, these 2 or 3 or these guys will be our designated partners. So just before that, is it, I mean, viable, or is it possible, or that's the query?
Okay. Now, again, I would say the same thing, that the designated partner is required. Now, if you are not putting the designated partner's name in the LLP agreement or at the very beginning itself, then the question will be who will be signing those documents, which is required for reserving the name. Correct?
Right, sir.
Suppose there are 10 people, so all that I'll have to sign them. Suppose there is no consensus, so after that, whatever forms that have to be filled, because once you fill up the form regarding the name, then comes the stage when you have to like draft the LLP agreement. You have to draft fill up the details about the partners. Now, when you fill up the details of partners in form number 4, if you see, you're required to put in the details about the designated partner over there. So what will you fill in over there? Your form will not be accepted over there. So you'll get stuck. You can say that, sir, if I have appointed resident partner, will that person be there for lifetime? No, you can obviously change that. That changing procedure is always the alteration can be done. There's no problem. But you need to provide a particular person's name in the resident partner, at least 2 such persons.
Okay, right, sir. Okay.
So in that way, in that way, I would say it's a mandate.
Okay, right.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So basically now when we have seen, I've just given you the overview about how you incorporate LLP, you will be studying. I think there are some videos that are there, which are there on regarding incorporation of LLPs. There are, I think, self-paced videos. Yeah. So you'll be going through them, and then you'll also study about, I think there are self-paced videos on this particular aspect also, like how do you incorporate a private company? How do you incorporate? So let me quickly take you through the other forms of business organizations that are there. Now, basically, when we look at LLPs, why did LLPs come into being? LLPs came into being only in the year 2008. Now, the reason why LLPs came into being was because the process of incorporating a company was quite challenging. Until the year 2013, and in very recent times, the process has been made quite easy, and there are so many changes that have been brought in by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs to make the process even simpler day by day. And with all these digital filings and e-filings, now we have e-AOA, e-MOAs for all kinds of companies. Even Section 8 companies can also file their MOAs and AOAs in the online format. So with so many variations coming in, the way of doing things have become much easier. But till the year 2008, things were not that much easy. And especially with the companies in 1956, incorporating a company was quite challenging. Yet, there have been so many companies that are still being incorporated compared to LLPs. So there is one particular disadvantage that people always feel, that a company edges over LLPs on what point or on what ground is that an LLP on any given day, somewhere or the other, somehow, I don't know why, but people say they lack credibility. Because you don't use the word private limited, you use the word LLP. So there are many people who are very skeptical of interacting with entities which are not known to them. People understand there are partnership firms, people understand there are companies, straight and simple. Something which is a hybrid of both is something which people don't understand so much. So that means the credibility is one big point on which the LLPs have always or are still challenged in India in the present moment. So the go-to option for any entity thus is company. Now, till the time 2013 Act was not there, we basically had three broad categories of companies. One is private, or not three, but rather four, apart from the producer companies and all those types that are there. So we had four broad categorization that I can think of at the moment. One is private, one is public. And we had a Section 8 company, which basically was neither private nor public in the truest sense, but they were not, in the earlier times, they were called as Section 25 companies. Now, these companies were basically incorporated for NGO and charitable purpose, as Shruti was mentioning. As Ms. Shruti mentioned that she had checked up about a particular NGO and their details on the MCA portal. So that was the benefit that these companies always provided. But there were some problems. Some of the problems that I can identify with reference to the Section 8 companies, as we presently term them, is the scope is very limited. Like what kind of business that they can do, what kind of benefits they can draw. And more importantly, when we talk about Section 8 companies, then what we find is that Section 8 companies particularly do not have the right to enjoy the fruits of the business. Whatever profits that are being earned, they are being reinvested in the company itself. So they don't get the benefits in that particular fashion. Obviously, they are paid and those things are there, but they don't enjoy the dividends, that is, if I use the right term. So thereby, the other option is that let me be much more practical and say, for example, I am an entrepreneur. We are having this belief that some of you might be starting your own business and you want to actually enjoy your profits. You don't want to again reinvest everything in the society or in the company itself. So you want to enjoy the profit. So what will you do? So companies at 2013 gave you an alternative that let's go for one-person companies. And when we went for one-person companies, then what did we find is that one-person companies were nothing but a kind of private companies itself. And thereby, but there were certain, again, benefits that were given, like only one person can incorporate, you don't need a second person. So thereby, this was a much more improvement compared to a partnership. If you yourself wanted to incorporate a one-person company, you can do that. So the Companies Act 2013 allowed you to do it. And thereby, we have now got one-person company, private companies, public companies, and unlisted public companies. So these are the four broad ways in which we can classify, and Section 8 companies are always there. So when we look at the incorporation process of companies, basically the MCA portal or the MCA, the file that you are seeing for such a long time, the particular tab that I was trying to show you, this is the portal, or this is the tab that you have to keep in mind, or the FAQs regarding the MCA portal's incorporation process for companies. How do you incorporate a company? What are the things you need to keep in mind if you want to incorporate a company? So basically, when we are talking about the incorporation process, apart from this version 2 and version 3, if you can just leave that, what you need to keep in mind is Part A and Part B are the Spice Plus. Now, Spice Plus is what basically the particular form that has been used for incorporating the companies, and they have been in force for quite some time. So those of you who are dealing with companies and who are dealing with entities, you might be knowing that incorporation of a company requires, like, it can be done online. There's no problem, and there are so many platforms that are now there which allows you to do it within a few days rather. And many platforms have started providing these services by paying some charges. So when we talk about the incorporation of companies, so basically what we need to keep in mind is some of the stages remain same like that of LLP. Like you have to again procure a digital signature certificate for your directors. You have to have a DIN. You have to have a reservation of name. These three steps are similar. So you need to follow these steps again, just like you did for the LLPs. If you have already got the digital signature certificate, it's great. If you don't have it, you have to procure it. If you have already got the DIN, it's good. If you have not, you have to apply for that. Now, I'm saying, if you are applying for these things for the first time. If you had already applied for them earlier, you already have it, then you can go ahead and use them again. There's no problem in that. Okay. Now, in addition to that, what you need to have you need to be able to create your own memorandum of association and article of association. Now, this is where the main trick is. Like when we talk about the process of incorporation, basically, and 99% cases, people think about incorporating a private company. They don't generally go for public companies on day one, because for incorporating a public company, you require a lot of capital, you need a lot of members, minimum 7 members are required. And there are a lot of other hassles that are there, like legal compliances are much more in comparison to private entities. So basically, when you incorporate a public company, a private company, earlier there were some capital requirements were also there, but that have been removed and done away with as a part of ease of doing business. So now you can just simply using the Spice Plus forms, which comprise of two parts I told you. The part A is for name reservation for new companies, and part B is for the other things. That means DIN allotment, the PAN numbers for the company, any other kind of other labor law benefits that are there, like taxation matters, then uh, employee state benefits in terms of insurance and all these provident funds and all these things. So they all come under Part B. So Part B is basically a plethora of a lot of other services. Part A is particularly there for your name reservation for the new entities or the new companies. Now, this is as per the new mandate or the new form that is there. Now, when we look at the process of incorporating a company, what you have to keep in mind is we also need to have a GST number in the present moment, because we're talking about nothing but indirect taxes and companies doing business. So you have to have a GST number. So you have to apply for that also. So all these are there in the part B of the Spice Plus form itself. So you just fill up that form, and of course, we'll be doing it on the MCA portal. It's not free. You have to pay some charges for that. Now, either you can do it at one go, or you can do it in either you can do it separately or you can do it at one go. That's completely your choice. But what you need to have is the names. The names, again, the same thing, the same repetition. It cannot be objectionable. It should not be violating any of the existing laws. It should not be violating any trademarks. It should not sound to be similar. And all the guidelines that are there regarding names have to be properly followed. Now, once you register once you have registered as a, I think Mr. Varun mentioned about the business user. So once you select the user category as business user and select the user role, then you create your My Account. And then after that, you create your own profile and you do it. And then you fill up the part A and decide what is the category or subcategory of the company. Now, when we look at the category and subcategory of the company, that means what is the nature? Is it a producer company? Is it I'll just show you what are the various categories of companies that are there as per the MCA portal. Just a moment. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, this is basically the instruction kit of Spice Plus, as you can see the name itself. And this particular instruction kit is designed to make you understand what are the questions. If you have any questions, you can always get your answers from here. In this, if you see, there are various annexures, producer company, unlimited company. So these are the various types of companies that are there. Now, generally, I talked about only a few. Now, these will actually give you the various types of entities that can be there. Like what are the various broad categories of entities that can be there, and all the types are covered over here. Okay, so these are the various types of companies. Whichever company which you want to create, that is what you have to select. And even like if you want to convert, if you want to change your status, then that option is also there. So basically, once you have selected this particular option, then you will be deciding about the description about the company. So then that comes under the next particular part. That is in part B. You have to describe about the company's capital structure, its office address. And before doing that, obviously, you have to also fill up certain details like what are the various objectives about the company? Are there any no objections that are required? So that has to be uploaded. And because only one file is allowed to be uploaded as an attachment, so that has to be taken care of, like whether the file is exceeding the attachment limit also or not. So now, in case of companies, we need to again decide about the names, as I told you, that comes in the part A. Now, once you're done with part A, then you move to part B. Part B is where you put in all the details about the companies, like the structure, registered office, who are the first subscribers. You had a question like, can we have subscribers in LLPs? The answer is no. In companies, we have it because there we call them as subscribers to the capital of the company. So first subscribers, the directors, the particulars of payment of stamp duties, and details about the jurisdiction and everything. Now, once the application for this incorporation is there, then we need to provide some information in the form of some documents we need to provide, like memorandum, articles of association, declarations by the first directors. Who the first directors will be, that has to be also decided beforehand. Then residential proofs that we provided of the subscribers who are there for the particular company, the ID proof and all the details. So once you provide all these details, what you are doing is you are basically ensuring that the company is being incorporated with proper details and with proper documentation. Now, in case of the number of subscribers to the e version of the MOA and the OA is up to 20, then in that case, it shall be mandatory for each one of them to obtain a digital signature certificate. That means all the directors need to have a DSC because they have to sign it. First directors not having the DIN or subscribers having PNs shall also have to affix their DSC, and while they are providing their permanent account numbers and the details. Once the DIN is allocated for the first directors, after the approval of this particular form, and the DSC may be updated against the direct identification, so that the same DIN can be searched for and can be found in case if any other relevant information is required. Apart from this, when we talk about the article of association and memorandum of association, we have respective forms for them also, and that has to be filled up. So once the documents are completely uploaded, so Spice plus all the MOAs and everything's are there, then after that, after payment of fees and everything that is required, because you need to pay certain fees, and in case of a company having share capital up to 15 lakh, you don't need to pay any fees. But if any capital of the company exceeds 15 lakh or more, then in that case, a fee of 500 rupees have to be paid. If a company does not have a share capital and has only members, then no fees up till 20 members. If the number of members crosses more than 20, 500 rupees. This is again given in the Spice Plus kit. If you see, to download from the NCA portal itself, you'll find it from there. So on that, you'll find all these informations, like all the FAQs are given over there as to what are the various things. Like if I show you through the FAQs, you will see that these information are there. What is the procedure and everything, whatever that I've been talking about, they're all given on the MCA portal or the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website itself. Now, as I was talking about the fees, so registration fees for the memorandum of association, generally it varies. In case if the capital is up till 1 lakh, then in that case, for one person in small companies, they don't have to pay any kind of fees and anything as such. But the moment the thresholds start crossing 15 lakhs and up, then we start having the fees. So other than OPCs and small companies, if it is like for every private company or so, then we have a fees of around more than 50,000 that has to be paid in case if the amount or the capital is between 15 lakh to I think 50 lakh. So around that, in this bracket, if you fall, you have to make a payment of 51 or 50,000 plus amount you have to pay. Now, this is if the fees payable on the authorized capital which is exceeding, and if it is more than one crore or so, then in that case, the fees amount will also go up. Now, this is for companies which are either OPC or small companies, and fees also differ in case if they're not OPCs and they're not small companies. That means for private companies or public companies. So accordingly, we have various kind of fees or registration charges for these things. Stamp duty, of course, is another very important aspect. And for the stamp duty, we know that every state have their own stamp act and the stamp duties corresponding to the share capital and the assets value that is there. We have to decide what the stamp duty is, and accordingly, that has to be taken care of. So once this form is submitted and once the fees are properly paid, if there are any further changes, then it can be made. It's not that once you've made the submission, that's full and final, that's once done and that's the end of it. You can make changes in that. And for that, you have to generate the updated PDF affixing the digital signature certificates. But there is a time limit, or there's not a time limit, but there's a limit on the number of times you can do it. And you can do it for a maximum of 5 times. So maximum 5 times, you can make some changes over there. And once this is done and once everything is in order, there will be an incorporation certificate that will be generated by the Registrar of Companies from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs itself. You'll get it. And maybe earlier it used to take a month, sometimes even more than that. But now it generally takes within a week, 3 to 4 days, I think you should be in a position to get the certificate of incorporation. Generally, within a week, you get it. So once the incorporation happens, the registered office, if in case the registered address has not been provided, then we have to file, then we have to provide that within 30 days of incorporation so that the registered office can be updated on the records. And the company have to maintain and preserve all the registered copies in their offices itself, including the certificate of incorporation. If a company is doing any online business, then it has to disclose its name, registered office address, CIN, telephone number, everything. And though there are many companies we find in the online age nowadays who don't follow these instructions, but that's a mandate that is required. And in case if companies are complained against, then the ROC has the power to impose punishments or impose penalties against them. Also, in case if there are charges, as might be there, so a statement shall be filed within 180 days of incorporating a company with the registrar, along with the charges as might be agreed by a director, that each of the subscriber to the memorandum has a particular share value that they have consented to, and that is on the date of the creation, and that has been obtained. The certificate of concerned business, since it has been started, it has been obtained from the concerned persons. So that is post-incorporation compliances, some minor compliances, but they're important because without that, again, the incorporation process cannot be considered to be as complete and done and dusted. So you need to take these small things in mind or keep these small things in mind when you're talking about incorporation of a company. There are minor variations because every company, as I think all of you have studied, there are so many types of companies and entities. The minimum requirements vary. Like for a private company, you cannot have more than 200 members. For public companies, the numbers are unlimited, but you cannot have less than 7 members. Similarly, for one-person companies, there are again restrictions on the kind of business that they can carry on, and there are some benefits that are also given to them. So basically, when we talk about these kind of companies, there is always a flexibility in the manner in which you can also switch over from one form to another. That has also been given into the company incorporation rules, where the company incorporation rules provides you with the detailed guidelines about what are the various, you can say, provisions that deal with this particular aspect. So when we're talking about the company incorporation rules, I think this has been discussed with you in any other videos yet. I think you have not yet read that, right? Company incorporation rules, you have not come across any other videos right till now?
So we have come across the rules, but we are studying. I mean, with the videos, whenever we are told that this is so and so is the rule. Yes, sir.
Yeah, not yet complete. So you are already aware that the company incorporation rules are there, and I'll just load it for you. So it's not something that's a new thing that you'll be seeing it for the first time, but I'll just show you that whatever I've said, where are these things present? So you can see the company incorporation rules are quite detailed and they contain all the forms and the enclosures. Let me come to the English portion quickly. Okay. Now, if you see the company incorporation rules, they in point number 3 itself, they have given about one-person company. So they have clarified what a one-person company is and what are the basic requirements that the one-person company has to fulfill. And in the company incorporation rules, they have also mentioned about the concerned form numbers and the concerned, or rather the relevant forms that you need to refer to. So for incorporating a one-person company, the relevant rule number is rule number 3, rule number 4, because rule number 3 talks about the description about a one-person company, rule number 4 talks about the nomination. And because in a one-person company, you need to have a nominee. That's a mandate that always you need to keep in mind. Because if you don't have at least one person as a nominee, then that one-person company cannot function. So you need to have at least one person as a nominee. So,
sir, what suffix does one-person company have? What suffix the one-person company uses?
Like after its name?
Yes. Suppose XYZ is the name.
Okay. So I don't think like whenever I have seen, I have only found the word OPC. I have not found anything else, but generally the preference is OPC private limited should be, because the nature of the one-person company is private company. So ideally it should be OPC private limited. That is how it should be.
So it will be, sir, XYZ OPC private limited.
Within brackets and private limited, because the nature of the company is private limited. But because this private limited company is a kind of OPC, so it should be like that. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, once you have if you see the relevant rules, the corresponding form numbers have also been mentioned. So these are the updated ones. You can always go through that. And I would suggest that many of you, I think, if you all are practicing lawyers and advocates, or if you are uh, teaching somewhere, then in that case, I would suggest you can always look at Manupatra or SCC Online, both the platforms. I think SCC Online is there, accessible to all of you. So on SCC Online, you can always go back and check about the latest updates that are there. Okay. Now, when we look at the one-person companies, these are the two major sections that are the major rules that are there. Rule number 3, 4. Excuse me. And when we talk about the penalties, they have also prescribed about the penalties, which is something you need to keep at the back of your mind, that if you don't follow, what are the contraventions. But that is not something that you need to be worried about, because I'm sure all of you will be doing business in a legalized fashion, or rather you'll be advising your clients in a legalized fashion. But this is something with a small rider that is there. And point number 6 becomes relevant, like when we talk about the next point, there is a conversion. If a one-person company wishes to convert, like you started a business alone, you were an entrepreneur, you started a business alone, now you wish to convert, and you want to convert yourself into a public company or a private company, in that case, what will happen? So point number 6 becomes relevant when we do conversion. So conversion comes as a later part. So later on, when you'll be doing with conversion, when you'll be dealing with conversion as a module, then you can look at rule number 6. I think the reference will be made over there also. But that is where this thing will become relevant for rule number 6 and 7. But otherwise, primarily for incorporation, it's rule number 3 and 4, and 5 is there for the penalty part. Am I clear? Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, once we are through with this, then these some rules are there regarding incorporation, which you need to be aware of, like the undesirable names, what names cannot be allowed. There's a long list you can see that is quite huge. Now, regarding the application process, we have rule 12, rule 13, and then particulars, what details have to be filled with the registrar at the time of incorporation. Now, these are if you're doing it in the physical form. If you're not doing it in the physical form, you're doing it in the online form, then all these things are there, but in that particular format itself. So only these rules have to be kept in mind to understand that what are the details I need to provide. What are the compliances I need to ensure that my law is not broken and I'm following the procedure as per the requirement. Okay. So these are some of the particulars that you need to provide, that every subscriber to be filed with the registrar at the time of incorporation. What are the things you need to provide? What are the information? Okay. Now, for those companies which are having charitable objects like Section 8 companies, the relevant rule is rule number 19. So in that case, you have to follow rule number 19, which consists of certain details regarding that. Again, as I told you, conversion, rule number 22. So that's why this module incorporation is actually comprised of two parts: incorporation, registration, and conversion. So basically, conversion happens after one entity is already come into existence. So the moment we started discussing with the point about one LLP. Now, after you incorporate LLP, you might want to change your company into something else. You might want to change it into a, maybe say, for example, you want to change it into a private firm. You want to change it into, you want to change it into a partnership firm, or maybe you want to change it to a company. The moment you want to change to a partnership firm, you have LLP Act 2008, and its relevant schedule is there, schedule number 3 and 4, which will guide you in that process about the process of conversion. But when you want to convert into a company, or rather you want to convert the companies into its various forms, then the company incorporation rules and the relevant rule numbers have to be adhered to, or the procedures have to be adhered to. Also, one thing have to be kept in mind when we talk about the conversion, there are certain restrictions on certain kinds of companies, as I told you. So like public companies, if they are listed, they cannot be directly converted into private companies. They have to be first delisted. There's a process of delisting. Then all the creditors and everybody who's there, their consent have to be taken. Similarly, if there are other stakeholders who are involved, then they have to be informed. So a meeting has to be convened. So a resolution is always very important whenever there's a process of conversion. But the first initial process of incorporation is something which takes place And then conversions in any form can happen. But there are some restrictions. Like when we talk about the OPC being converted, there are some restrictions. Public company can be converted into various forms, but there are restrictions on Section 8 companies being converted to certain entities, OPCs being converted into private entities directly. There are certain restrictions that have been placed on certain kind of conversions. And these restrictions have been placed because of certain reasons. And one of the major reasons is the manner in which the capitals are being dealt with, and if there are public funds being used or misutilized. So in that case, to prevent those misutilization, we have some restrictions in conversions. But incorporation, there are no such restrictions. Only thing is the compliances that have been laid down under the provisions of Companies Act and the company incorporation rules, they need to be duly followed. And along with that, because everything in the present era now happens in the online mode, on the MCA portal, the respective forms are having their toolkits also. Like when I'm talking about a particular form, I'll just show you a sample so that you can also have an understanding about what a toolkit would look like. Is it visible, this one? Instruction kit for form Philip?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, this is exactly the instruction kit that you have to follow in case if you are reserving your name and you're going for LLP incorporation. So this kit is available on the MCA portal. So they have all the required information, and they provide you all the requisite information that you need. You don't need the help of any XYZ person. You don't need the help of any platform. You can do it by yourself if you're a lawyer, of course, and you are fulfilling all the criteria. So you can do it by yourself. You can start this business also for yourself. So what you do is this.
Sir, I have a small doubt, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, sir, whether a fresh certificate of incorporation is issued once, suppose a private company is getting converted to public, then do we get a fresh incorporation certificate from a new date?
Like you talk about like whether you'll be given a new certificate of incorporation.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And whether that means that a new company is incorporated or it will be the old company only?
No. See, this is a very nice question given the circumstance in which we need to keep in mind. Now, what happens after conversion? Though this is a bit premature in terms of taking up the question, because conversion is going to happen a bit later. But still, because we brought up the conversation regarding conversion, so let me clarify. Once you convert, then the debts are still there. The debts simply have to get transferred, or they have to be mitigated. Either you pay them off or you have to take the responsibility. So when you're converting a private company to a public company or vice versa, then in that case, what happens to the incorporation is you get a new company and a new name maybe and everything is there. But that does not mean the old company completely gets written off. The nature of the company changes. The nature of the company changes.
Sir, what about the rights like licenses and everything that the old company had, that will be simply transferred to the new?
Regarding the license and everything, they will be transferred. And in case if there's specific requirement that wherever there's a change in the nature of the company, there's a requirement for a specific reapplication, that is different, because the name of the company is only getting changed from what? Limited to private limited. Otherwise, the name is remaining the same. So unless until there's a specific government requirement or there's a legislative requirement, there is no such requirement for applying it in a separate.
So, sir, everything will remain at its place.
Yeah. The point is, once you have
the major liabilities and rights will be the same.
It will be. See, the point is, once you are converting a public, say for example, we are talking about conversion because more amount of liabilities are there in case of conversion of public company into private company. If you're talking about conversion, then the important thing is all the other, you can say, whatever kind of liabilities, attachments, whatever that is there, you need to first get rid of them. In case if you're unable to do that, then you have to get an NOC from the particular creditor stating that we are going ahead with this particular conversion. We don't have any objection, but they will continue to subsist with the new person. So essentially, they are existing. They're not, they're getting transferred. So the transferring of the liability will take place, but that will always be there.
And sir, the GST and PAN certificate, all these things will be new issued to the new entity, or it will be continued the same?
As far as I think the GST and these things, GST, I'm not very sure. I have to check with that. But PAN, I think it will be then as a part of the spice itself. The new PAN would be the same PAN can be continued. There's no problem with that.
And sir, the agreement that you're talking about, that the creditors have no objection, so it will be like an agreement or some
No, it's
in
not an
stamp paper
agreement.
they
It
will.
will be. It is a kind of a resolution. There has to be a meeting. There's a meeting with the
Okay, sir.
creditors. We'll take an NOC from them. So that meeting will
Okay,
have a
sir.
resolution. So that resolution has to be passed under the seal, and that NOC. Of course, there has to be an affidavit if you are doing it in the offline mode. There has to be an affidavit which will certify that okay, this person has no objection of that everything. Because once you are going for conversion, if you go under, if you check the company and corporation rules, the regional director has the right to check if there is any objection on the part of the conversion or not. And if there is any kind of objection on the part of any person regarding the things, everything, so in that case, that conversion will not take place. So once you convert, what you have to do is you have to make some alterations, like alteration memorandum, articles, and those things. But all the other licenses, these things, they will continue to exist under the new company. If you
Okay, sir.
if that particular law mandates that you have to apply for fresh license application or anything, they have to intimate that this company was there, this company has been renamed into this particular format, so you can update this in your records. Now if the
So
authorities
it is, sir, just the change in the name
yeah, it's just a change in the name, it's not change
materially.
in the but as I told you, change in name has certain dire constraints or has some dire impact on the nature of the way in which the business will be carried out. Like there are some restrictions on the ability to list its shares. There will be restriction
Yes,
on
sir.
the
That I got. That I
transferability.
got.
Correct.
No
So
problem.
those things are something that has to be kept in mind. And accordingly, if somebody has any objection with the manner in which the business will be conducted in the henceforth, then they can take appropriate steps for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Any other question? Okay. So as I was trying to clarify this thing, that whatever that I'm talking about, it's there on the MCA portal. So whenever you're writing your answers to your assignments, don't look out for answers from Google or these places. Visit the MCA portal and see what the relevant form looks like and what the instructions that are given over there. The main purpose of the assignments are so that you look at these forms and look at these instruction kits, because these instruction kits contain all the information that you require for your answers, mostly for your assignments. So if you go through them, you'll get the authentic information, and whatever answers you give will be more appropriate compared to answers that you'll be getting from Clear Tax and Tax Guru and all the other people. I'm not undermining their credibility. Please don't get me wrong. They are very knowledgeable. They are very good in that way in which what they are doing. But only thing is they don't get updated regularly. So it's always better to visit the MCA portal and get the instructions from the horse's mouth itself. That is better. So that's why. Any other questions if anybody has? So in that case, I'll stop the sharing and
yes, sir. I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, regarding this previous question, I mean, when we were talking about conversion, so it will be like that. Just like we've studied the alteration of memorandum and of associations and article of associations for just for converting, say, for example, from private, I want to go to public company. So I'll just have to, amend the memorandum and article only. I mean, the name I'll amend, the name clause I'll amend from private to public, the whatever clause, then the maybe the liability or etc. So by just amending these two articles and memorandum and then filing it with ROC, will the conversion?
No.
No. Okay, sir.
That is one of the steps. First and foremost, there has to be a meeting where the resolution will be adopted that this conversion is going to take place. After that, the register of members will be there, whereby the general meeting will be convened. And then the ROC has to be intimated with the resolution copies and everything that this is what are being done and this is why this is being done. Because the conversion of a private company, I'm talking about private to public, okay? If you want to convert a private to public, then it can happen in two circumstances. One, by choice of the individual members of the company. Second is by compulsion. Supposedly, the number of members of the private company exceeds 200. It will cease to be a private company. It has to be converted into a public company. Or maybe the entity has done certain activities like transferability of shares, or they want to do certain kind of things. So in those circumstances, the conversion will be considered as by compulsion. Choice means the companies want to do it by themselves. It is at that point where you have to follow certain steps. And in those steps, first and foremost is you have to take the permission of the board. The board has to approve. The meeting has to be convened of all the state of all the members of the private company. They have to give their approval. The resolution copy has to be filed with the ROC, and there are respective forms also attached to that. There is MGT form 14 and certain other forms are there. So you have to fill up those forms and give it to ROC. After that, there has to be an advertisement. That's the most important part. And once these things are done, then an application has to be filed for the conversion, or the application has to be filed for converting this public to private or private to public, whatever that is there. You have to do that. Because see, the point is, whenever you're going for private to public, the onus is less. Why the onus is less? Because the compliance are lesser. And the compliance will remain lesser till the time you're not accessing public money. The moment you are a public limited company where you have access to public money, then your responsibility becomes more. That's why the amount of NOCs, the amount of approvals, amount of objections, and amount of all these things becomes more and more. And wherever we talk about this conversion, one thing has to be kept in mind, that the process of conversion has to be done keeping into mind certain basic parameters. The compliances of companies incorporation rules, Rule 41, that is a paramount importance if you're talking about public to private. We're also talking about the Companies Act rules, that is again there, plus whatever that is there under the forms. In that, alteration of the memorandum and articles are just one, maybe you can say, important aspect of conversion, which has to be taken into account because of the compulsion that are there, like the name clause, the capital clause, these have to be altered. There's no other option. But otherwise, just by altering them will not make you a public company or a private company. You have to do the filings, you have to do the information bit, you have to have the special resolutions passed. If you don't get these things, the process is not complete, and they have to be intimated. There's a time period of 30 days, 15 days. Those compliances have to be complete. So if you're not following the timeline, again, that conversion will fail. So alterations are just one aspect of that. Procedure as per alteration clause that is given under the Companies Act, that is the same thing. Alteration, just like we do for a normal company alteration for any changes in the articles and memorandum, it's fine. The same thing will happen over here also. But here the motive is for conversion. So that is the objective is different. That is it.
So, sir, first board resolution will pass, then a special resolution.
Yeah, because nothing can happen without the board in favor of it, right? So the board has to take up the agenda and has to decide. If you talk about any private member who wants to put up this resolution, then they have to call an EGM and has to get the board in the favor of it. Because
sir, I think the shareholders will be at better position to decide this.
That is why once the board has resolved, then comes the members. And members are who? The members are the shareholders. The members are actually the shareholders. So that's why we talk about the preparation of the register of members and calling a meeting and convening meeting and take the resolution from them. Board of directors are required because they are the persons who will decide. And then we go to the members and then we seek because the directors need to be on the same front. If the directors are not at the same front or not the same level, there can be issues, there can be problems. Take the example of Tata Sons and Cyrus Mistry, the best example. Yeah.
Sir, so I mean, in the memorandum of association under subscribers clause, the first subscribers are mentioned. So afterwards, when we want to, some other members want to join in, then we have to amend this subscribers clause.
No, first subscribers will remain like that. First subscribers will not change. That they are the first, they are the initial subscribers. If there are additional subscribers, you can add them.
So, sir, my question was regarding these listing companies. I mean, on a regular basis, people are subscribing to the shares, and some are. Then isn't it mandatory that
No.
Okay.
See, when we say we are subscribing to the shares, again, it's a way in which we put things, and that's why rather did not use the word subscription for LLPs also. When we subscribe to the shares means we are only touching upon 0.0000001% of these shares of that listed company is available for people like us. And subscription to the memorandum means people who are accepting that in case there is any problem, we are there. So that is the difference, the onus and the liability. And even like when we subscribe to the prospectus, we are investors. So nature of subscription or the nature of the subscription clause is entirely different compared to the subscription that shareholders do when they invest in the company. So those two things are different.
Okay, sir. Since regarding incorporation of a newly formed company, so when we were studying that, after filling off the sticky part B form, then it converts into PDF, and then we have to download it and then affix this digital signature and then upload it.
Yes.
Correct. Then who have to affix the digital signatures? I mean, all the first subscribers have to affix their
all
signatures.
The first-time directors.
So, I mean,
all the first-time directors are the subscribers of the initial memorandum of the company. The first-time directors' names are there. Yeah.
So there, what I've studied that the company has at the time of incorporation, again the same question, that company has a choice either to make first directors the proposed first directors, or not to make the proposed first directors at the time of incorporation. I mean, after incorporation, 1 month period is, I think, provided for the first board meeting, and there also I think they can, first directors can be chosen, that who are to be the first directors. What I have understood. So
Achha,
I mean that
please complete your question. That is very important.
So what I have understood that it is, I think, not mandatory at the time of incorporation of a company for having directors. I mean, directors, the first directors can be made even after incorporating within 30 days of time, when the board meeting has to be, taken after incorporation. So
okay.
at that, so yes, sir.
Yes, again,
so who has to sign the digital signatures at the and when we download that sticky form and then affix the digital signatures and then upload it. So in that scenario, if suppose company is not haven't proposed its first directors, in that scenario.
Okay. Now the point is, originally, as per the I think Spicky, which you're talking about, which I'm talking about, Spice, the same name.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that particular form has a point, or in fact, even in the memorandum association, we see the format of the companies at 2013. In the annexure part, in Schedule 1, you'll find that there's a draft format of memorandum and articles given. You need the names of the directors. At least first-time directors have to be there. Either the subscribers to the memorandum association will be considered to be as the first-time directors, they will be presumed to be so, they'll be deeming, so they will be the persons doing the filing and everything. And then what you're talking about, the first board meeting within 30 days of incorporation or receiving the certificate of incorporation, that is when we have the first board of directors being elected. So the first-time directors can be elected as a part of the board members itself, or they might just resign and a fresh set of directors may be appointed. That has got nothing to do with that, is it required or not? The answer is yes, it is required. You need to have first-time directors, or the subscribers to the memorandum will be considered to be as the first-time directors. There is no other option. Okay. And the DSC of the concerned persons will be accordingly. And the important question would be that who are the first-time subscribers? Who will be? Essentially, the first-time directors are the persons who are the initial subscribers of the company's memorandum. If a person is there in both the positions, then only that person will have some sort of you can say belief that, okay, I am a part. If you are creating a company with your family members, you will always want you and your family members to stay, and you would like them to be a part of the subscription clause and a part of the first-time directors and everything. But in the long run, this cannot continue. So you have to bring in new people. So initial members, they will be your members. That is how things will run.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
And sir, yes, one diverting question, sir, regarding this issue. I mean, in case of private companies, I mean, you cannot. The shares are restricted. I mean, you cannot. People cannot
transfer the shares.
Transferability of shares. In public companies, shares are transferable. So in
Not
listed
always.
Okay, sir. Okay, so what? So my question was regarding this, that in listed companies, so we know the procedure. I mean, companies are listed. We can online, transfer of share goes on. So in public cases, how transferability occurs? I mean, and
See,
in
the point is, again, I'm sorry, I did not allow you to finish your question, but please.
That is my question, sir. Next point is what I wanted to ask, that in case of private companies as well, I mean, like the PE firms and these firms, they also, invest in these private companies. So
Correct.
I think there are specific shareholders agreements. So
Yes.
I mean, share transfer, share subscription agreements. So in private companies also, what I think is that, shares are being transferred in that sense. So I'm not understanding this concept, this point. So that's what I want.
Okay, fine. Now, see, the point is when we talk about private companies, the shares are not publicly available. Say, for example, you are a private equity investor. You want to invest, you have funds, you want to invest somewhere. So, what will you do? You look for business opportunities where you can invest. And why do you invest? So that at a certain point of time, when you draw or withdraw your investment, you draw the investment with some amount of profits. Some pre-decided amount will profits are associated with it, and your money will grow. That is what you expect. You want your capital to grow. That's why you invest. So there, your investment is in the kind of an investment, fine. And when you are investing, there will be an agreement between you and the company where you have invested, like the duration, or maybe some clauses might be there, like any project might be there, something of that kind. And there will be some terms and conditions under which the agreement can get terminated, or it might be time bound. Okay. So once those investors withdraw, they are not allowed to sell those shares. It's not that they will be selling those shares. So say, for example, today, if there is a group of investors who have invested in Reliance Jio to have made them debt free, to have converted the debt into equity, and they have purchased the shares. Now, once they are withdrawing the investment, somebody has to purchase those shares. Who will purchase it? That's the biggest question. And Reliance has to pay them that money. So the money has to be paid. So the shares come back to either Reliance, or there will be some other person who will be interested in their investment. They will pick up those shares. So who is deciding it? It is Reliance who is dictating terms. Or that because they are the person who will be getting those shares, considering that Reliance Jio is a private entity. Okay. Suppose if we talk about, I talk about today LIC, which is now a IPO, which has done its IPO, now it's a public listed company. So now when some amount of investment was there, and some entity, or rather some persons were there who had made some investments, now they wish to withdraw. They can withdraw. The shares are there in the open market. Anybody can pick them up. LIC cannot stop them. The problem that happened with Mindtree and L&T, Mindtree had one of the directors who defected, one of the promoter directors who defected because he had some controlling stake. So they did not have a clause, or they did not have a clause at that time to restrict the directors from selling the shares. They could not stop. So when he sold off his shares to L&T, L&T happened to be in the position of controlling some of the stake in Mindtree. And subsequently, what ensued was a kind of a bitter corporate battle, which L&T won ultimately, and L&T acquired Mindtree. The India's first hostile takeover has happened. So listed companies is easier to pick up the shares, and anybody can do at their own choice. Nobody can restrict. So that's why I told you that transferability of shares are there. It is fully transferable, but sometimes companies can put in riders in the article of association on the transferability of shares, especially when they deal with the change in control of the company. So there can be some veto rights. That is called veto control, or negative control. That is what we call them as. Having said that, when we talk about public companies doing it, then it is what? It is some sort of restriction on the transferability of shares. Normally, this is not allowed, but sometimes it can be allowed on exceptional conditions, like to prevent takeover, to ensure proper management and these things. It may be allowed. But for private companies, it's a strictly no thing, whereby private companies, it's completely their discretion that they will decide how the shares will be transferred. Nobody will have a choice. That is the reason why if you see Tata Sons in Cyrus Mystery's episode, Tata Sons was so much keen on converting the Tata Sons into a private entity so that the stake of Cyrus Mystery, which they were trying to sell to somebody, they can prevent them from doing it. So private companies always have a chance of deciding who will deal with the shares and how they will be dealt with. So that is what is meant by restriction on transferability of shares. Having said that, when we purchase shares, we are retail investors. We are not investors in the terms of angel investors or equity investors. We're not like that. We are retail investors. We are like shareholders who own certain portions of shares which are there in the open market. But that is for the public listed companies which are already being regularly traded on any stock exchange. If I talk about any private company, none of these shares are being traded on any stock exchange. Those shares are being held by individuals. Unless until that private company decides to go public with its shares, where its shares will have a particular value and now it will be publicly traded. Now, once it is publicly traded, then in that case, there will be some shares which will be held by promoters, some shares will be held by angel investors, which are not public, which are still not publicly traded. Only the publicly traded shares are those where we people like you and me invest. When the shares of the promoters and these are being sold, then companies go for FPO or kind of rights issue or these things. When some of the promoters or any of the other stakeholders wish to offload their stake in the company. So that is when they go for either FPO or any kind of public issues or any kind of rights issues, all the other methods that we will study a bit later, I guess, in the course.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And sir, in case of these private companies, I mean, these private companies also in their article of association, they can say that the members are having the freedom. If whoever are the subscribers, they may have the freedom to sell their shares, or they cannot, say. I mean,
they can allow the members to sell the shares, but it will not be open for the public to deal with them.
Yes.
If any XYZ private company has 10 members and they don't put any restriction on them in transferring their shares, they can sell them off. They can sell them off to anybody, but no private company in their right mind will ever do it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other question from anybody, please? I think we were seeing a few cameras on, but somehow some of the cameras have gone off now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'm just leaving from here. That's
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Tejas sir, if I'm not very wrong, Tejas sir, are you there?
Yeah, I think there's some problem in my video. It is getting freezed.
Okay, no problem. Tejas sir, were you there in Nirma earlier?
No.
Okay, fine. I've mistaken you with somebody else. No problem. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
And Shiladitya?
Yes, sir.
Acha, you are there because I cannot see the cameras except for.
I was just eating then.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Ibadur Rahman.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Are you there?
Yes. I've been listening.
Thank you.
Bad bandwidth.
Okay, I understand. And Hasnain Alvi, Mr. Hasnain Alvi.
Yes, sir. I remember you, sir. You were in HSU, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember you too, sir, from the Adamas University, if I'm not wrong.
You were there in Adamas?
No, I wasn't, sir, but there was a workshop earlier I visited.
Okay.
From Calcutta.
Okay, fine. Okay. So certain acquaintances coming up. And certain more acquaintances will grow in the days to come by the more we interact.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very nice. I think.
Sir, by any chance, I'm Hasnain, sir. May I get your number?
My number? I think it's there. I'm not sure whether it's there or not, but I'll give you. Let me see. Where is the chat option? Let me see. Yeah, this number is on WhatsApp. I have this number for quite long.
Sir, I will save it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, any questions, any doubts, anything you want to ask? Because I have come to the conclusion of my speaking time. Now, if you have anything to ask, we can have a discussion on that.
Thank you so much, sir, for the number.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Pradyumn
Pradyumna.
here.
Hi.
Yeah, so hello, how are you doing? I think you just confused the Tejas that we know has Parekh rather than
Yeah, I think that is the reason.
Parik.
Yes.
So the Tejas that we earlier
Yeah, you
have
earlier knew
known
that the
10,
dot was
10,
not there.
15
So that
years
is what,
ago,
yes.
Tejas is a different Tejas.
Yeah, yeah.
Although there is a familiarity in face.
Yeah, in the face,
So-
that is what actually made me to presume and made me to ask the very that non-obvious question. But anyways,
Okay.
that's
So
something,
I
yeah.
think it's a matter of spelling as well as
Spelling and familiarity, deceptive
yeah,
similarities.
right. So before we conclude and leave and end our day with just over 3 minutes, but just a couple of announcements. The first one was the pre-class assignments are not coming on time. That's one of the concerns for a lot of instructors, that they don't have enough material to go on in the class. So until unless you don't submit, it becomes very difficult for instructor to sort of give sort of a constructive feedback. So there would be a lot of times where the same assignment is supposed to be submitted pre-class, and then there is some feedback in the class, and then you're going to resubmit it after the class, working on the feedback that has been provided, right? So and also it carries grades as well, so you miss out on those grades, and then it's difficult for us to generate the certificate. So that's point one. Point two is the matters related to the conversion have been uploaded. So today's class was sort of the midpoint of the course, right? So conversion from partnership to an LLP, LLP to a company, from a private to a public company. So all of those materials, the video material is live now. So you can go and work on the conversion aspect of it and submit the assignment very, very strictly on 26th May is the last date, right? And then we'll move on to the next course, which is on accounting and financial statements, which has been curated by Mr. Paras Gupta. There won't be any video content for the accounting and the financial statements. All you have to do is look at the chapter 10 of the Companies Act, schedule 3 of the Companies Act, and along with it, there are two samples, two annual reports of Dabur from 5 years apart, so that you can compare financial statements. So it's a big document. We have attached it. Just go to the financial statements and see what the annual reports looks like and how the numbers are presented. Along with that, there is some basic note, which won't be a reading of more than 15 pages by CA Paras Gupta, and he has beautifully curated that so that you understand the basics of accounting, especially the people who haven't seen balance sheet in their lifetime, right? So it's not important that you do the accounting procedures by yourself as lawyers, as transaction lawyers. You don't have to do it. All you need to do is that you know how to read it, right? Because that is going to be one of the important journeys, because once you do it, it would help you in prospective courses, and as in when you practice. Because if you see how corporate law is structured completely, is that there are only three elements to it. So one is that you should know, you should know the law. Second is you should know the business, and third is you should know the numbers, and that's all, right? So it's important that you know how to look at the financial statement. The cliche goes, when things goes wrong, follow the money, right? If you're not able to look at the financial statement, you won't be able to follow the money, right? So it's very essential. Some of the people, I presume Tejas is quite pro at it, may also assist you guys, and you definitely, even during the midweek, can have an informal conversations, and discuss amongst each other, teach one another, right? That okay, this is how it is. So that's always welcome, right? Rather than just meeting in 1 week or 2 weeks, just keep interacting with each other, and if someone has some experience in some particular area, please do share, and collaborate, because as the cliche goes, sharing is caring, right? So that's it. So important dates here are 26th May for your conversion assignments. Go through all the conversion videos from one entity to another, right? Whether it's possible or not. So all the procedure is there in the video format. And then you have assignments 26th May, and then there isn't the readings for your accounting are very less, right? Won't take you, more than 6 hours or 4 hours to read and understand it. So it's very simple, no video, so that time is very short. And on third, the class would be a longer duration class. So please take note of it, that the class on Saturday, 3rd of June, would be from 3 to 7 p.m. with, of course, intermittent breaks in between, 2 or 3 breaks, so that there is a continuity in understanding the accounts and understanding how you look at the financial statement. All right? Right? And don't sort of miss your deadlines, please. Right? Try to get into habit of some sort of a discipline. Try to manage time, because that's our biggest enemy, not able to manage time. Right? Okay, that's all from my side. Over to Dr. Achal or Victor.
Thank
So
you,
I have
sir.
a question to Victor, sir.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had sent you the question regarding that association of DSC, the concept that, sir. So could you please tell what is that concept in while incorporating that company? I mean, if the director is not having a DIN, I mean, that was the question, that if the director is not having DIN, then you may associate the DSC of the proposed director. That kind of thing was there. I'm not getting it right now.
Yeah,
So having any...
I actually wanted to know that from where did you pick up this? Was it given in any of the materials or somewhere?
It was in the MCA website itself, the FAQ section. It said that if director, the proposed director or any person is not having the DIN number, then you may associate the signatures, or I mean, you may ask you. The thing was that then that person has to register as an authorized representative of the company, and then associate his DSC against the DIN. Associate his DIN against the DSC or DSC.
See, the step number 1 is you need to have a DSC. If you don't have a DSC, you cannot go for DIN.
Right, sir.
DSC is a mandate. If you don't have a DSC, you cannot do anything. So you need to have a DSC. If you don't have a DIN at any point of time, there might be a possibility that you might apply for the DIN, because DIN application can also be made as a part of Spice Plus. So if you are one of the first-time directors and you have not yet got the DIN, you can make yourself as an authorized representative of the company, because you're the first-time director. And once your DIN comes, then you have to re-upload the particular information along with the DSC and then resubmit it to the portal. So that alteration is allowed for the 5 times. So basically the purpose of stating this is that you need to have a DSC, that is a mandate. Based upon the class or category of person which you are following, you need to have a DSC. What this is being relaxed is because DIN, for that you don't need to make a separate application, because it's a part of the Spice Plus form now. So you can still make the application as a representative. Once the form gets approved, so once your DIN is allotted, then the rest of the things be carried out. So you don't need to make a separate application and again move into a separate way, and then that thing is separately charged. So you don't need to do it. All the other things are being brought under one roof. So initially, you are allowed to move ahead with the DSC. Once your DIN comes, the updation has to be done.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, everybody. In case of conversions, if you have any queries, if you feel there are any doubts, please do feel free to contact. I think I've given you already my number. So, and if you need any particular session or anything of that kind, though the time is very short because you have to submit an assignment also. But once you have submitted assignment, you should still, if you still think that there are some minor areas where you need some clarification, then please feel free to reach out. There is no hesitation. Please don't be hesitant.
Can we get also your mail ID?
Mail ID, I'll surely give you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have got the mail ID. In case if the mail is bouncing, please drop me a message on the WhatsApp. I'll be able to check out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. And there is a discussion box also. Have you seen that discussion box on the portal, everyone? So you can put your queries and questions there also, and maybe we can take it forward with Professor Victor. Okay. So great. Thank you so much, Professor Victor. So it was a great interactive session. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, so take care, and we'll see you on the 3rd then. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Please take care. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, sir.
Good night.